now we've got James Jones who's going to chat to us about asterisks and alternatives and open source VoIP and that sort of thing.
Sorry, a little disorganized this morning. So while I'm going to set up here, how many people have used asterisks? How many of you have it in production? Okay, plus the same amount. How many people use SER? Okay, or the other variant, OpenSER? Okay. How many have heard of FreeSwitch? Of those, the people that here that have used asterisks and FreeSwitch, who knows what the differences are? Anybody? Kinda? All right, we'll cover that. Come on. Does anybody have a computer that works? All right. A little introduction. I'm James Jones. I own a company, Virtual Realm Software, based out of my house in Levin, of all places. Basically what we do, a major goal of Virtual Realm Software is to be one of the first metaverse services companies. If anybody doesn't know about what a metaverse is, you can go to the website and virtualrealmsoftware.com. Explains a little bit further there. Primarily what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years has been working in the voice over IP space, primarily dealing with anything from 10-seat PBX up to a 10,000 user carrier grade VoIP system, all based on open source technology. Primarily what I'm going to be presenting, if this thing will work, is just some slides and one big diagram of the platform that I helped develop for a company in New Jersey using asterisks and some other, and SER, and kind of like how it all fit together. And basically why using asterisks as a soft switch is a bad idea. Not that I hate asterisks and don't enjoy it, it's just not the right tool for the job when routing large amounts of traffic, if most of you guys can attest to who use it, unless you've clustered it appropriately, which is not an easy task in some cases. The alternative is a new piece of software I'll introduce called FreeSwitch. This is going to be all very high-level stuff. I'm not going to get too much into the nuts and bolts about it, just basically what each piece of software's functionality is and what it does and what different pieces you need to bring together to make a system work. Any questions so far? No? I'm about ready to throw this one out the door, but it's not mine. There we go. Come on. I think I plugged in the thumb drive in at the wrong time.
Probably borrow someone else's computer.
Could be taping with like a TV in.
I may have a computer that has PowerPoint or OpenOffice on it. Remind me to talk to ITS on Monday. It was working before, I swear. Mac what?
Just run inside.
All right. Power.
Yeah.
Oh, that's magnetic.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
There's one on the other side if you want to check on there.
it's just, this thing's kind of bulky. There.
Check the.
Oh, yeah. Where do we go?
On it?
Yeah, please. I'll answer your phone.
Was it?
I'll answer your phone.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna fill in space, Johnny? Good enough?
There you go. Forward, back.
Okay. So way to. Oh.
You're all good, man.
Oh, well. It's different. All right. So open source VoIP solutions in carrier environments. But it actually should be small carrier environments. Because, again, we haven't done anything large scale like I'm currently working on over at Alcatel. It's just a lot more bits and pieces than what I'm normally used to working for. Basically, I've worked in small businesses pretty much ever since high school, and just basically getting my first real taste in much larger scale environments. So this will be catered to more what you would see in the States of 1-2-man carriers, telcos. You know, there's because the U.S. market's a little bit different than here. A lot more competition. Everybody and their brother pretty much has slapped an asterisk box in a co-location somewhere and decided, hey, let's start a telco. Just introduction, me. Now, primarily the company I was working for before, or primary contract for virtual realm software, was a company called Signate. They developed a proprietary interface for configuring basically the high availability VoIP cluster, as we like to call it. Just basically a bunch of boxes that all talk through a centralized database. So, and they went bankrupt in November. Got an email yesterday, the intellectual property's been bought, so the software will be rebranded and put back on the market, which will be great, because it'll be, if anybody wants to do this type of thing, they're going to be switching it over to FreeSwitch, and really good. There's only a couple other ones that I've seen that do deal with clustering of Asterisk, and going to be doing clustering of FreeSwitch is NSwitch, and Signate's product called SigCarrier, but new name to be determined later. Virtual realm software, covered that. Software used in this platform is Asterisk and SER. And FreeSwitch. FreeSwitch is a new piece of software that's come out from under the rugs. Anybody familiar with Tony? I can't remember his last name. Better known as Anthem in the Asterisk community. Anybody? No. Anybody? How many people are actually involved in the Asterisk community? Mailing lists, forums. Okay. No. So basically, the platform consists of SER, an Asterisk cluster, voicemail application server, a centralized database, MySQL, PSTN gateway, OSS and web application server, a centralized monitoring system for the cluster, and an Nfs Storage. Basically, the Nfs Storage is basically to piggyback for the voicemail, an application server to just store voicemails and data. I believe in the new version of the software, we were working on actually combining the Nfs Storage and the voicemail server just for ease and be a little bit more cost effective because the people that we were selling this to did not have a lot of money. Now basically, what you would have, you got your single endpoint phone, and it would talk to a SER, I don't know why that's SER internal, that's from the other. But it would talk to the SER, and that SER cluster would consist of two machines using heartbeat. So if one of them goes down, the other one would take over. And then also monitoring for mesh part that would, if certain switches went down, it would automatically swap over to the next NIC. And then you would have your Asterisk cluster. SER is pretty intelligent, and you can write scripts for it to basically to redirect a SIP traffic quite easily. And what we would do is we had basically a job that would be running on the SER box to determine the status of the Asterisk cluster and determining which boxes were up and down. And if one of them went down, it would just drop it out of the list for the load balancing. And then as soon as it came back up, it would add it back. Pretty easy way of doing it. And so all the Asterisk machines went off the same database configuration information, so they were pretty much identical. Idea was eventually to put a whole blade cluster of them in and load balance across. And then you've got your application voicemail server that talks to the Asterisk cluster, and then your local PSTN gateway. This also should be, that there should also be third-party VoIP termination. If you guys are in the States, one of the larger carriers that we dealt with was Level 3. And basically, they have a really, really nice voice over IP termination package. So you can buy directly from them and get access to their backbone and to their PSTN gateways. And just makes it a whole lot easier. That way you don't have to buy a whole bunch of gear to put it in different geographical locations and maintain them. Now, the centralized database system is pretty much the heart of the whole system because it keeps all the configuration information for everything, user information, statistics, CDR billing, all that stuff. And it would, so that was kept on what's called the Stratus Box. Basically, Stratus is a really cool piece of hardware. Basically runs two computers that are doing the same exact thing at the same exact time. So if one of them fail, the other one just keeps on going. It's just really, really nice. They use it in a lot of, what's the word? Basically like 911 or 111 centers, mission critical type situations. And then you have the OSS application, web application server, which does all the provisioning and user interface into the system, so they can basically change their call forwarding, whatever, listen to their voicemail online, that sort of stuff. Set up their SMS messaging for when they get a voicemail. And then the other key piece of this is the Nfs Storage, which sometimes had a tendency to break, cause lots of problems. Actually, originally, this database was actually all stored inside the Asterisk cluster, and we did database replication. with MySQL? And who here have ever had a problem with MySQL with a database replication going out of sync? Yeah. And how many hours did you spend getting it to go back into sync?
Just wrote a script to fix it.
Exactly. But it's just really, really, really a big pain. But I mean, that's pretty much a platform in a nutshell. And then what we broke up the different signaling and management, networks. That way, you don't have your management traffic going over your signaling, and you want to get the storage going over a different network because that's high throughput as well. Now, the cool thing was the watchdog. It would actually monitor the health of each individual unit, break down into each individual blade in the cluster. So not only did we have the monitoring inside the SER for the Asterisk cluster, we also had it in the watchdog, which at some point should have been integrated instead of each one doing their own thing. But what this would do for you, it would give you a better look at what's actually going on inside of your network, because the monitoring software was written in such a way they could check bandwidth statistics on a particular element. You could, as soon as something went down, you could get a better idea of what was going on, because I've seen some of these network monitoring systems where you just basically, especially on a client site, basically if you were talking, if like in Nagios, you send out the packet to the client site that you need to talk to find out what the health of the status is. And if the router's down, broken or something, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way, work very well. But if you've got the devices dialing home, you can get a better idea on what's going on in the network. And so if a particular system goes down, you can get a better indication. Any questions about that?
If one of your Asterisk boxes fails, do all the calls running through it drop as well?
Yes. All the calls will completely die, unfortunately, because you get into the only way you're going to be able to do that is, IBM's been able to do it with Asterisk. They did a shared memory thing. I think would be much similar to the type of Stratus type shared memory that they've come up with. And but basically, if all the calls are going through a particular switch, if it's dead, you lose them. And I think you would find that with most proprietary solutions as well, at least from the ones I've seen, that if a switch goes down, you lose those calls even though things are being load balanced. The way around that, though, is it makes your network is doing the re-invites. Because through here, we were actually doing all the transcoding and everything, and we were actually holding on to the call. We weren't sending a re-invite to the two endpoints. Because of the reason we did it that way was because of RTP issues with NAT. You get quite a bit of issues, especially if you're doing multiple different locations, talking multiple different places, and if they just have one place to go to, it makes it a lot smoother. Does that answer the question? Any other ones? All right. SER. It also acted as a registration server. All this registrations get stored in a table in the centralized database that gives you real-time statistics through your web application server, so you can find out who's registered where and just be able to monitor the system. It's great for load balancing. You can do load balancing, round robin with it. You can do pretty much anything you want on routing the traffic, as long as you write the script that talks to the SER properly. It's a Swiss Army knife, pretty much, when you want to route traffic for SIP. And again, able to integrate other features quickly. One of the key parts of that was we were doing a contract for a provider in the States that also want to integrate call center solutions into their IPVX hosting. solutions. And what we did, we took basically an appliance, and we're able to integrate that into the user agent side, because basically they would just send the call to the 7-digit number of the person's through the just send to the user ID on the SER, and SER would just route the call, and it wouldn't even affect the PBX side of this solution. So we're able to integrate really quickly and just add its IP address to the routing table. It's great. Asterisks. Able to set up call routing quickly. That's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, if you guys have experience with asterisks, it's really Johnny did a good job explaining the dial plan and yesterday and how that all works together, and you can just pretty much write your own application to set up call routing, checking least call routes. So I just got a question: are most people for their least call routing? Are you guys writing custom applications for that, or are you guys using something off the shelf? Anybody doing least call routing at all?
Mix both.
Mix both?
Yeah.
All right. Build custom value-added features. Basically, services that your customers want. I know that with asterisks, they're things like call forwarding, follow me, and stuff like that. There's a lot of logic that has to go into that, and isn't necessarily built directly into asterisks. But you can build those features rather quickly, just with simple dial plan logic or custom scripts. Large community of support. The asterisk community in the last 2 or 3 years has grown exponentially, pretty much. It's I was at the first AstraCon in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was tiny. And then the year later, I went to the one in Spain, and it was just, they were overfilled. It was pretty amazing how much it just exploded within 12 months. A lot of the community is breaking off now, but the support is there. And as always, if you get stuck, you can always whip out the credit card and call Digium up, and they'll be happy to take your money and do nothing. But in some cases. Yeah, able to use scripts to help with call logic. Now, a little bit about redundancy. Physical mesh networks are great. I've seen a lot of installations where they're running their management, signaling, their speech paths, all through some $50 Linksys gigabit switch, which is not very reliable and will wreak havoc with your customers, I'm sure, at some point, especially when you start ramping up more than 200 calls. Heartbeat. Heartbeat is a great utility. Basically, if a system goes down, you can have another one that's configured exactly the same way, come right up and take its place, and it happens within milliseconds, depending on the speed of your hardware. It's really, really responsive, and I think it's a great open source solution for developing high availability applications. Now, Stratus. Again, cover the Stratus. Who here heard of Stratus before? All right, so a lot of you, I believe its website's www.stratus.com. Maybe. If not, Google it. Just do Stratus space high availability. It'll come up. It's probably Stratus.com. It's probably one of the best high availability pieces of hardware I've seen. It's just, I mean, you can literally go up, rip one of the blades out, and it doesn't miss a beat. So it's just, can't say enough good things about it. Need to make sure it's reliable. I've been doing a little bit of testing lately and on some systems, and just reliability is key. If you need to test your networks, load testing, break stuff. If stuff breaks, things should be able to recover quickly. I've seen things where you turn off one machine and another machine just randomly reboots because it was talking to it and it just dies. And you can't, causes too many headaches. So before you put a system out to production, thoroughly test it. It's pretty key to make sure, because there was this company, client of ours, we told them we really need to test the system. We need to make sure it's reliable, redundant. And they said, no, put it out there, because we got to get this huge client. So we put it out there. 2 weeks later, the system totally crashed, unresponsive, had to fly somebody out to go out and fix it, and they lost the client. And it was about a $500,000 deal. So you got to make sure your stuff's production ready before you put it out there. Scalability. Now, one of the key things about scalability is making sure that you have the right tools for the job. This is where I'm going to knock on Asterisk a little bit. With Asterisk, you really cannot get more than 250 calls through an x86-based system. It just ain't going to happen. I know people that have tried, and it just doesn't work. One way around that to do your throughput is we started using SGI gear because they use the Numa bus in their gear, and it gives you, I think, 6.4 gigahertz or gigabit. Sorry, 6.4 gigabit throughput on the bus to the PCIX slots, and the PCIX slots run at, it's 2.3, isn't it? PCIX? Is it 2.3 gigabit? This is another thing I'll cover in a second about PCI slots. But pre-plan your scaling. If you make sure you do some modeling and some checking about how many customers you're going to ramp up, and have the gear in place. Don't be playing catch up all the time. Just it provides better service for your customers, because one of the things, I worked for Broad Voice in the States, and one of the things that they would do is they would just wait until the network was saturated and it was causing so many problems. And I had to be on the other end of that, answering the phone call going, oh, it doesn't work. Well, I mean, I can't really say, my company I'm working for sucks and stuff. But it's just, you put people in situations they don't want to be in and cause too many headaches if you don't pre-plan it. You need to make sure that you got to think ahead. I mean, I've just seen so many rinky-dink operations, and you find that in the Asterisk community. You got everybody and their brother, again, want to set up their own telco, and they've got no quality of service at all. Check where your bottlenecks are. One of the biggest bottlenecks we found is that people are using gigabit cards and PCI slots. And if anybody knows anything about the difference between PCI, PCIX, and PCI Express, is that you're never going to get gigabit through a PCI slot, because it only does 512 megabit. Never gets there. And you won't even get 512 because overhead. So you need to make sure where your bottlenecks are. Another key place dealing with Asterisk clusters is you're going to have to check your hard drive I/O. For whatever reason, because I haven't delved too far in the code, even if you turn the CDR records off and turn your logging off, there's still a high amount of hard disk utilization. Don't know why, just is. And that will cause a bottleneck, because Asterisk will try to write to the hard drive, and if the hard drive is being pulled, it'll actually slow down the system and make it unresponsive. Make sure you have enough bandwidth to support your calls. Common mistake I've seen is people, again, using, crappy switches, but then they only have a single port from their switch going into their router, and they haven't split anything up. They're not doing any sort of redundancy, and that one piece that's clicking out is running at half duplex. So it's just check your bandwidth. And to help with putting more calls through, especially if you're dealing with higher end servers like Sun, SGI. One great way to get the throughput through your box is bonding NICs, being able to run them in parallel. So that'll improve your call throughput as well. So one gets used up, the other one starts going. Especially with the SGI box, I believe the published figures said 5,000 calls through the SGI box, but was unreliable. It's more like 2,500 calls through a single SGI box using Asterisk. And the way we were able to achieve that was by bonding NICs. So again, check bottlenecks. Now, FreeSwitch. We're switching. The plan was to switch the application to FreeSwitch. FreeSwitch is a brand new open source project. It's a true soft switch. Unlike Asterisk, it's a PBX, and people are using it as a soft switch. Soft switch FreeSwitch is a true soft switch solution. It has a central core library. You build different modules to communicate, whatever protocols you want to use, TDM, SIP, EEX, H323, and it supports a whole arsenal of different codecs as well. So there's nothing you won't be able to use it with. Throughput. I think last test through compared to Asterisk, we're able to quadruple the throughput of SIP calls through a single FreeSwitch box. Which is great. I mean, it means that your hardware is being more productive and being able to be utilized better. Easy to use API. So even though it's new and it lacks some functionality, you can quickly and easily build it. I'm currently writing 2 modules for it for the database configuration, mod MySQL and mod ODBC. And people ask, why are you just writing MySQL along with ODBC? It's because I don't know the ODBC API that well, so I'm writing a MySQL API first and then translating later. The development team is great. There's about a couple, three core people. There's Tony, Brian West, and Mike J. Mike J is primarily the developer who handles the porting to Windows. The cool thing about FreeSwitch, it runs on multiple different operating systems. It runs under Windows really, really well. And actually, the cool thing about it is it's modular. So I've been able to incorporate it into some open source graphic engines. So I can incorporate them into some video games, which is kind of a side project for Virtual Realm software. So being able to put VoIP inside applications is quick. So I mean, it really is a Swiss Army knife. You can put it into anything and pretty much use it for anything that deals with voice over IP technology. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
What were you using for your monitoring software? Was it based on?
It was proprietary. We wrote it ourselves.
Did you find FreeSwitch as reliable as?
More so.
More reliable?
It's more reliable. Even though it hasn't had an official release, I haven't had it crash on me in 4 months.
Do you have a preferred operating system for running Asterisk?
Linux, and my preferred distro is CentOS because it's pretty much the same reliability of Red Hat ES, but it's free. So, and it performs well, really well. And actually, we use CentOS on the SGI boxes as well. So it works really well and works on different hardware platforms.
Did you have experience of that before, or did somebody recommend it to you?
The SGI box?
No, the CentOS.
We found it on our own. Actually, we heard a little snippet about somebody talking about it on a mailing list. We went and checked it out, and it's just We've used it. I've used it ever since.
It's a server-based distribution.
Yeah, it is. It's an enterprise-based operating system. So
Last time I looked at FreeSwitch, did they do SIP authentication? Is that still the case?
no, they fixed it. That's been incorporated. They've actually even switched the SIP engine that they're using. They're using Sophia now. And they've actually, due to the FreeSwitch, Sophia's gotten a lot of updates lately. So, because Sophia didn't handle SIP registrations until the FreeSwitch project started working on it. So it hands us authentication, and yeah, I think it even will do the MD5 hashing as well.
Is it possible to use SER and integrate that with FreeSwitch?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking Asterisk out and putting FreeSwitch in, and basically taking the same principles of load balancing, because all it is SIP signaling. It's just another different application underneath.
What do you use for voicemail if you've taken Asterisk out?
We still use Asterisk for voicemail currently, but we probably want to investigate some sort of appliance for voicemail. If not, build one of our own. But again, I'm no longer working for that company, so I'm not really involved with that development anymore. But I've got close ties with the people that are.
Is that integration easy to set up between like the SER?
If it was
Switch and the Asterisk voicemail, or is that all?
We did it within 2 hours. That's
You're
simple.
saying that you'd be moving away from asterisks?
Yes.
Do you see that as a long-term trend in general?
So that again?
Is that a long-term trend in general, moving away from...
I believe so, because Asterisk, it's an open source PBX. It's not an open source soft switch. This is a soft switch.
Do you think most people know the difference?
That's part of the. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
I don't think so. But part of the FreeSwitch project is to educate people on it, and the main difference is that all it does is route calls. That's all it's there for. And as long as you do that, you can build something pretty quickly and really reliable. But once you start throwing in call queuing and stuff, all handled by a centralized core, you're looking for disasters. Me and Johnny know about chain agent and the call queues. Yeah.
James, isn't it FreeSwitch as a true soft switch? So does that mean it can scale to a true
Yes.
equivalent?
Yes. It's based on how many threads you can generate on your CPU. So the more threads you can do, the more calls you can handle. And there's no issues with how many registrations or whatever. A lot of people have it can accept registrations, but a lot of people have moved that off and use something like SER or OpenSER.
You were saying that the Asterisk is about 200, 250 calls on an x86. What would the FreeSwitch? Is that still sub? Is that an x86?
That's more close to 1,000.
Oh, right.
Any other questions? So,
With the, just one more with the FreeSwitch.
Yeah.
I take it like say you've got an E1 card or something. Can it handle drivers for that, or is
primarily the support for it is Sangoma boards that it uses. Who's heard of Sangoma? Okay. We need to get a distributor in this country. I know that I am buddies with the VP of sales of Sangoma, so.
I give them the free cards to fly.
Yeah, well, he gave me 2 for free. Well, there's eval cards, but he never told me to send them back. So
you can't get the Digital ones to sort of run unless you write your own driver.
There's a new initiative for Open Zaptel to move basically the Zaptel drivers away from Digium. There's a whole bunch of politicking going on right now, especially since they got that injection of $13 million. Digium's, at least in my opinion, has lost the plot on what Asterisk was really about. And there's a lot of animosity going around right now because Mark Spencer's gone crazy. But we can talk about that over a beer. Any other questions? Great.